You're listening to Eddie Corrick on 2country.net.
To get us started, I asked Forrest to talk about his early life, to give us some idea about what it's like growing up in the United States. This is what he had to say.
All right. Well, let's see. I grew up in a musical family. My parents and my grandparents were musicians. My grandfather was actually an opera singer doing concerts back in the 20s and 30s, and met my grandmother, who was a concert pianist, and accompanied him. And they had a bunch of kids, and they were all musicians as well. So I'm a third-generation musician, but I'm the last of three. See, my parents divorced in 1974, so I lived with my mom until I was about 4 years old because my dad was on tour. He was a tour coordinator for Mountain. I don't know if you remember those guys, but they were a hard rock band in the early 70s, and the bass player, Felix Pappalardi, was the guy who produced all the Cream records. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Leslie West was the guitar player, but he was on the road with those guys as the tour coordinator with Spooky Tooth, the Marshall Tucker Band, Procol Harum, and a band called the Sharks from Liverpool. But he did that until 1974, and then he quit and came back and got custody of his kids and moved us up to Darrington, Washington, which is in the middle of the woods. I mean, as far away from the music business as possible. That's pretty much my early life.
And your earliest musical memory?
I'm thinking that would probably be when me and my siblings, my brother and sister and my cousins, we would all get together with the record player, and we'd play along and sing along and act out all of the Ray Stevens songs like Ahab the Arab and Jeremiah Peabody's Polyunsaturated, Quick Dissolving, Fast Acting, Pleasant Tasting, Green and Purple Pills and stuff like that. I was about 3 years old. Scratch My Back, all those great Ray Stevens songs that were, kind of comedy stuff. And I never got the lyrics right or anything, but that's probably the earliest memory I can remember. And I always had a tape player or tape recorder from the time I was about 3 or 4. So there's a few tapes of me making up words to stuff when I was 3 or 4 years old that I know my mom still has copies of that. But
you've got to use those to lead into a song or something at some point in your life.
You never know.
I'd be interested to hear about the first concert you attended. Can you remember that one?
Well, I remember when I was about 4 years old. It was a very small town, this Darrington, Washington, and it was early in the morning, and I was about 4, and I saw this bus pull into town. And I remember seeing it said Bill Monroe on it, and I came in and I ran into my dad's room. I said, Daddy, Bill Monroe's here. And he's like, son, go back to sleep. What are you talking about? And my sister came in. She's like, no, Daddy, Bill Monroe just pulled into town in his bus. And, we hopped out of bed and everything. So I met Bill. And what he'd done is my dad had helped start this bluegrass festival in Darrington, Washington. It all started right about that time. And some of his friends like Bill Monroe and Ernest Tubb and those guys were showing up. So my earliest concert was probably Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass music, in 1974.
Wow.
And then followed shortly by Ernest Tubb, which that was a great concert. He had a great band. And again, I was 5 when I saw Ernest Tubb, but I remember Ernest set me up on his knee and he said, Forrest, you got a real nice boy here, and I think I'm going to have to take him back to Nashville with me. And it scared the hell out of me. He smelled like cigarette smoke and sounded like, deep, croaky voice, and I was petrified. Anyway, those are the first two. And then I remember seeing Marty Robbins around 1975 or 76, and that was absolutely amazing. Great singer and great concert.
You've just kicked my jealous bone hard. So I'd love to have seen those people.
Yeah, and having met them when I was just a little kid, growing up in the business, my dad was a country music star back in the early 50s. One of the first records that Buck Owens was ever on, he was playing lead guitar for my dad. So if you go back, and I know you can still find these records. I think Bear Family Records puts them out. But you can find a Buck Owens tape or a Buck Owens CD, and if it has the songs I Will Always Love You, Darlin', Higher, Higher, and Higher, or When I Hold You, that's my dad singing those songs. That's not Buck Owens singing those songs. My dad was singing those, but they're on all of these Buck Owens records because Buck was playing lead guitar for him.
Do you know, I think I've got a couple of heritage collections of Buck Owens songs.
And you need to look those up because I bet you if you find that When I Hold You in My Arms and Kiss You, look that one up because it's my dad and Buck Owens co-wrote that song, but that's my dad singing it.
Continue with that conversation now, and the next question I asked him was about his early musical successes, those things that compelled him to pursue a career in country music.
As far as just a career in music, I think I was born into it. I knew that I was going to be a musician. there's just so many things, just growing up around the house with my dad playing guitar and writing songs. That was pretty much it. But when I was in first grade, I played drums we had a school play, and I don't remember what it was, but I remember that I had to play this tom-tom. It was like Cowboys and Indians play or something in first grade.
Yeah.
And I didn't show up one day, and the teacher came to our house and said, he can't be sick. The concert is today, and he's the only one that keeps everybody in time, because I guess nobody can keep time. So, my first award, actually, I was in first grade, and it says for music and art, that was pretty cool. But as far as just playing music and knowing that was what I was going to do for a career, I don't know. I think I've always known it. There was no question.
I guess coming from such a musical family, almost a given that you would find some outlet. You make your own guitars?
Yeah, I do.
That's coming right up to date. I've kind of taken us out of the hypnosis, the magic at the moment. It just sprang into my mind that you do your own guitars.
Well, it's kind of funny. I didn't plan on starting the guitar business. It started out that I was making B&G benders for myself and for a select few friends like Johnny Highland and a couple guys like that. And then I put a bender in for John Bollinger. And at the time, he was band leader for Nashville Star, the TV show Nashville Star. And he asked me to put a bender in one of his guitars, so I did. And then he asked me to put one in his Hahn Telly, another one of his custom guitars. So I did that. Then he asked me to put one in his Paul Reed Smith, so I did that. And then he just said, hey, can you just build me a guitar with what I want in it? I said, sure, man, no problem. So I built him this beautiful guitar that has a Da Vinci printed on the front of it, the Adoration of the Magi Da Vinci. It's a beautiful guitar. And then after I built him that guitar, everybody started having me build him guitars instead of just installing B&G benders. So I started making guitars for all the guys in Nashville. So about half the guys are playing guitars that I built. And guys over here in the UK, Nicky James got one from me, and then Mervyn Futter bought one from me, and then John Pettifer bought one from me. Brian Hughes up in Scotland, he got one from me. So it just kind of everybody would play one of these at one of the festivals around here, and then another guy would see it and order one. It just started rolling. I mean, I really didn't plan on starting a guitar business. Now I've probably done a couple hundred guitars, but it's pretty cool.
It's not a bad adjunct to your main work, is it? That's for sure.
Well, making music and making guitars, and I also own a little music store, but I write a lot of film and TV music. Shows like The Office, Friday Night Lights, the movie The Possession, just numerous TV shows and several films I've written music for. So I do that as well. I've got my finger in a bunch of different pies.
I've been reading about a lot of that. You are let's call it prolific. The shows you've had involvement in is just incredible.
A couple of them are really nice. Like the Office. I mean, every time that show airs again, which it's not going to go away for years. It's going to be in reruns for years. So the royalty income off of that is, it's going to be for years. But anyway.
That's really nice, isn't it? That's for sure.
Yeah, works out for me.
So how did you find yourself making music? How did it happen?
Well, I got my first guitar when I was 2. My dad gave me a guitar and a reel-to-reel tape recorder. Those little tiny reel-to-reel, like the 3-inch reel-to-reel tape recorders?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I got those when I was 2 years old. It was Christmas of 1972, so I was almost 3. So I've been recording and playing around with tape recorders and just playing guitar and stuff since I was a really little kid. And I was just totally enthralled by it. It's always been a passion of mine to record. So ever since I was a little kid, that's all I've really ever wanted to do. And then, I think by the time I was about 9 or 10, I was learning how to overdub, how to record a rhythm part and then play that tape back while I started the other one recording, and then play a little lead part over the top or something, and then, play that one and then start the other one recording, and then I could sing a part. I've been overdubbing and bunny hopping is what I called it back then since I was 10 years old. So I just kept on doing it. I never quit. I've been recording since I was a kid.